Um, and also I've been exploring sound therapy, sound healing, which is
Wow.
more of a complementary therapy approach. And one of the things I love doing is combining the two. I think you can see my gongs behind me.
You're listening to episode 87 of the Play Therapy Community Podcast.
Welcome to Play Therapy Community Podcast, providing connection, information, and inspiration to child therapists all around the world. Here's your host, a licensed psychotherapist, a registered play therapist, and my mom, Jackie Flynn.
This episode is brought to you by the World Association of Sand Therapy Professionals. WASTP was created to support the integrity and ethical practice of sand therapy and to support greater access to sand therapy training throughout the world. It honors the use of sand therapy from a diverse variety of clinical theoretical orientations. You can learn more about the World Association of Sand Therapy Professionals at www.worldsandtherapy.com. Well, hi, Masha. Thank you so much for being a guest on our Play Therapy Community Podcast. You do beautiful work. So today we're going to talk a bit about your work, and I know you have an upcoming training. You're with the World Association for Sand Professionals, which is an amazing organization. So I'm excited to jump in. But before we do that, let me have you just tell people who you are and what you do.
Hi, Jackie. Thank you so much for inviting me to talk about my work. I love doing it. Where to start? I've done all kinds of things in my life. I used to work in the zoo, and I used to work as a gardener, and my degree's in botany. So I worked with animals and plants, and I never ever planned to work with people in the first place because I used to have quite severe social anxiety. So people were not on my radar, or they were on my radar too much.
Yeah.
So I never expected to work with people. So it happened by accident. I was working in a prison as a horticultural instructor. I was teaching prisoners about growing flowers and vegetables, and I realized I really loved working with people. So that was 23 years ago. And since then, I've done all kinds of things working with people. So I worked in prisons and probation service. I've managed drug rehab, worked in various addiction services. I worked with a National Health Service here in the UK. I worked in children's homes and all kinds of things. So in recent years, I've realized that I'm a bit fed up with talking to people.
Yeah.
I just want to play. So this has been a very selfish pursuit on my part in the last few years. I do work with both adults and children, and as you know, children will play naturally as a way of healing. And if you hold the space and provide a safe space for a child, they will play to process their emotions, to heal themselves with a therapist's help. And I really do believe that adults need something similar much of the time. Yes, we can talk and we can process things through words and language, but a lot of the time, things that do need healing are not accessible through words.
Yes.
So over the years, I've been exploring different ways of working creatively. And some of my main loves are sand play therapy. I originally trained in integrative sand play, and more recently in Jungian sand play. But I love every single version of working with sand. I'm quite eclectic with it. I will choose the way to work with a particular person that I feel they need. And also I've been exploring sound therapy, sound healing, which is more of a complementary therapy approach. And one of the things I love doing is combining the two. I think you can see my gongs behind me.
Yes. Oh my
It's
goodness. I'm thinking, like, literally thinking you're the most amazing person I've ever met.
oh.
And I'm thinking, like, when you say eclectic, you have so much experiences to pull from, but the sound, the gongs and everything, and the sand play and all of that, and bringing like plants into prison. Holy cow. I just recently experienced my first sound bath at a Neuroscience of Play Therapy Summit in Cocoa Beach that Doran Henderson and I had. So you integrate the two, the sound and the sand play?
Absolutely. And I
Wow.
actually started using the sound and the sand possibly at about the same time. I can't actually remember what came first. When I was a teenager, I was an aspiring singer and musician. And then I went for an audition to music college, and I was told I wasn't good enough. They didn't take
Oh,
me.
boy,
So
their laws.
for a long, long time, for decades, I sort of left my guitar and stopped
Oh,
singing. But in recent years, I have an excuse to sing, and I don't have to be a proper singer. I can sing healing chants and mantras for people. I don't have to be a proper musician in order to create healing sounds with the gongs and chimes and other instruments. I can still play and be and let the sounds flow through me, for me and for other people. um, and I just love it, and I love adding the sound to the sand as and when it feels appropriate. I think to work together in a beautiful way.
that is literally beautiful. I literally have tears in my eyes. The fact that for years, which I guess things kind of worked out in a way that benefited the world in such beautiful, just unexpected turns of events, because if you were a musician, maybe, things would have been different. Whatever the reason, what a gift you are to like the world.
Oh, thank you, Jackie. No, I really love sharing this. I'm so excited about this workshop I'll be doing for the World Association. I've taught this or similar workshop a couple of times, but this will be the first time with such a wide, potentially wide audience.
Okay, so I'm going to be attending the workshop and it's virtual, right? It's a virtual workshop. Can you tell us about what is it about? What are you going to be doing? I'm so excited.
I expect that most people who will be attending will be already familiar with working therapeutically in the sand in some shape or form, whether they're play therapists, sand tray, sand play therapist, or somebody who's just interested in working creatively um, with clients or with themselves. I'm a big proponent of using both sand and sound for self-healing. I think
Yeah.
we must. I think it's compulsory.
Hmm.
We cannot get our clients to do stuff that we're not prepared to do ourselves. So I think
So
it's
true.
really important that we have to walk our talk, and whatever practices, whatever healing approaches, whatever therapies we offer to the clients, we need to be living them.
Yeah.
Um, so I expect people will be attending will be mostly familiar with sand. So I'll be focusing a bit more on the sound, and then on how we might combine the sound with the work in the sand. So some of the things we'll talk about. So there'll be a bit of theory and some experiential work. Hopefully there'll be a good balance of the two. So in terms of theory, I will talk a little bit about the symbolism of
Okay.
sound. Um, and just to summarize it very briefly, sound is a symbol of the divine. Whatever type of divine you believe in, whether it's God or universal energy or your higher self, sound is a really profound symbol of that spirit within us, and the expression of that spirit of our self. So it's a very, very powerful symbol. So it can arise in the sand in form of symbols that represent sound, for example, bells or drums or birds, or it can arise at an actual sound that happens during the session, whether it's a sound from outside of the room or the sound the client makes or sounds that therapists make.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that. Just even, I mean, all those sounds are beautiful, the nature sounds, the bell sound, but just the intonation of your voice, I almost feel like I'm going into like this real deep, peaceful state. I literally just met you like 10 minutes ago. We've only like talked via email. Just your voice is regulating my nervous system. I can only imagine what it's like when you integrate sand and the gongs in there and bells, or I don't even know. It sounds incredible. Makes me want to go to the UK and experience something in person with you.
Please do. I run little retreats. I call them sand and sound retreats over
Oh, wow.
over a weekend usually. And all we do is we make sand trays and we have sound meditation and we do some chanting and some drumming and put it all together. And it's a lovely experience. So if you're visiting, please do.
Where is it in the UK?
I'm near Manchester. I'm in a small town called Glossop, which is about half an hour east of Manchester, kind of in the north.
Okay. I'm gonna search your website after this. I'm actually going to Italy later on today, so I'm excited about more international travel. So,
Oh,
um,
wonderful. Well, now that we can travel more easily,
thank goodness.
it would be lovely to have you as a visitor. So thinking of the workshop, so apart from the theory, I'll talk a little bit about symbolism, but we will also do some simple, very simple sound exercises. And because we're on Zoom, everybody can mute themselves, so you don't have to sing or make any sounds in front of other people. It can be all very private. I know many people are shy about using their voices for all
Hmm.
kinds of reasons. They might have been told that their voice isn't good enough when they
Yeah.
were young, or they might have been told to shut up, or other messages that stop us from expressing our voice in its authentic form, and it stops us from being true to ourselves because our voice is part of our truth.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll be making some very, very simple sounds just to ourselves. There'll be no pressure to share with anybody else. Um, we will possibly be combining the sounds with a sound tray. I will invite people to create a sound tray and share a little bit in the breakout rooms. And there will be opportunity to explore what sounds occur naturally in the sound tray, because once we start paying attention, we will notice that actually there is quite a lot of sound when we make a sound tray.
Oh, it's so mindful. I think about like I just recently started meditating about 3 months ago. My friend Anne Beckley Forrest, she was telling me about the Calm app, and I noticed profound shifts just from using that app. I can imagine what that must be like to have that hyper focus on like sounds where you didn't even realize because everything there's so much internal noise that it's hard to hear.
Absolutely, that internal noise indeed is a problem for most of us, I think, because we're brought up kind of in a thinky way. You know, thinking is very much valued and encouraged at schools, throughout society, because that kind of cognitive analytical way of being, you know, society gives it a lot of value, and the being aspect of us and our voice and
Mm,
listening is certainly part of our being. It's much less encouraged. So I would like us to be able to pay attention to that and be curious of the sounds around us, the sounds in us, the sounds we can make ourselves. So one of the lovely things we might do, we might be able to do a little exercise on creating our own healing song individually. Again, there'll be no pressure to perform whatsoever. It can be completely private. But I know that everybody will be able to create a very, very simple healing song for themselves, maybe for their sun tray,
mhm.
um, maybe for a certain aspect of that sun tray. So I expect we'll be able to do that. And if there is time, I might be able to do a short sound meditation with the instruments, just to let people hear some of the instruments, even um, if you're not a kind of play therapist or music therapist with extensive musical equipment, you can have a range of little instruments that will potentially make a big difference in being able to create certain sounds. And the equipment, some of it is quite expensive, but it doesn't have to be. And so I will demonstrate some of the bigger instruments, but also some small things that could be quite easy to use. You don't have to have any particular skill, but sometimes clients really enjoy adding some of those sounds to their sound tray. And I'll talk about the circumstances, how and when I might offer that, because it won't be with every client. But I certainly do use it for myself quite a lot. When I make a sound tray, I will often be drawn to creating some sounds with and around it. So I feel it kind of amplifies that healing energy, that magic that comes through the sound and the symbols. I think the sound just gives it that extra little oomph, a little extra power.
It is kind of like magic, and I see like the beautiful instruments behind you. That is so incredible. And I think about like even the one time that I had a sound, experienced a sound bath. It was at the summit, and after everyone left, I saw the gong, and I was like, I think I'm gonna hit the gong. There's nobody in here. So I just boing, and then dong, and I was like, wow, it's just that alone by itself without a meditative experience was kind of profound. So I could imagine what it's like when you integrate it with the sand tray work. I've never even heard of anybody doing that. Is that something that you've created?
Well, funnily enough, about 12, 13 years ago, I did some play therapy training with a wonderful woman called Eunice Stagg. She's the UK's main Jungian sound play trainer, but at the time it was a play therapy training. And Eunice is the most beautiful human being. I really have a lot of love and respect for her, and she's a president of Association for Sound Play Therapy.
Oh, okay.
And that was one of the exercises she set for us. I think it was the last weekend, and she asked us to create little sound trays in groups, small groups, and then there was some musical instruments, some small percussion, and she suggested that we would pick up some instruments and make some sounds over the sand. And it was the most profound experience in my life. It was absolutely beautiful. So I'm forever grateful to her for introducing that to me, because I think that was when I realized that putting these two things together is even more magical than sand or sound on its own. But funnily enough, I did the Jungian sound play course with Eunice last year and finished this year, which was wonderful. And I told her about that experience that I had, and I asked her, well, how did you come up with that exercise? And she couldn't even remember doing it. It was just something she did spontaneously. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't the thing that was planned or she had in mind. It was must have been quite intuitive for her. But for me, it was one of the most profound experiences that changed the course of my life. So I'm forever grateful to that spark of intuition that she had, because as far as I know, I am the only person who specializes in combining the two. I do have one or two colleagues who are getting really interested in it as well. So hopefully there will be more. And people who have attended my workshops in the past are hopefully getting into it. But I would really very much encourage every sound therapist to consider the sounds and their potential impact on this work. And I have introduced some sound work to my colleagues who are sound healers, sound therapists. The majority of them are not trained mental health professionals. In the UK, the regulations are not so strict as not to allow people to use different modalities. So you don't have to have a doctorate or social work degree. So I can see that some of them may be incorporating sound into their work as a complementary therapist, and I do feel that some of them can do some really, really beautiful work. I'm a little bit skeptical about formal qualifications. It's maybe a bit naughty of me to say so, but I know many beautiful people who are natural healers, and just sitting with them and having a cup of tea is already healing for me. And they might not have any formal mental health qualifications. And I also know some very well qualified people who are scary and I wouldn't go near them at all. So whilst I think good training and qualifications are important, they're certainly not the answer to somebody being a good, safe therapist or healer.
Safe and connected. And you're talking about Eunice didn't even remember. I think about that's really that right brain, soul to soul connection that you don't get with planning. You can't like plan that. You can't like put that in a list of things. Oh, I'm going to connect with somebody's soul at this moment. Then 10 minutes later, we're going to do this. It truly is like magical. It's amazing. I kind of feel that right now with you. I don't know. I like literally almost started crying when you were talking about that. There's something even about your presence that's so beautiful. I can imagine what it's like to learn from you in a workshop, but to be in a session with you, holy moly.
Oh, Jackie, that really, really touches me. It's so lovely to meet you and talk about this. It's in kind of a normal everyday life, in social life, these are things that are very difficult to talk about, because to explain what we do, okay, we get people to play in the sand or play with toys or listen to some sounds, but
It's profound.
people don't get it unless they've experienced it. So actually, I find marketing really hard, because how do you explain what you do? Because unless you actually have the experience, it's impossible. It is a very much a right brain experience, and words don't quite do it justice. But we're trying in this conversation. And
It reminds me of like there's this I don't know if it's out of a book or I've seen some kind of little graphic that Piglet is asking Pooh Bear, how do you spell love? And he's like, silly bear, you don't spell love, you feel it.
I love that. Oh, thank you for reminding me of that. Absolutely. You don't spell it. You
Spell it.
You don't explain it. You feel it. So hopefully people who come to the workshop, even though we'll be separated by some thousands of miles potentially, I hope people will be able to feel some of that magic, create some of that magic in their room with their own equipment, with their own voice, with their own being. So I really hope as many people as possible come to the kind of live workshop, if that makes sense. I don't know if it's recorded. I guess will it be recorded?
I don't know. I'm gonna hop on the phone with Roz and I'm gonna text Tammy and literally I'm gonna tell them about how amazing you are. They already know. I'm just now meeting you. But I will find out and I'll put all the details underneath. If those of you that are watching this as a video, you'll see underneath this video some links. But if you're listening audio, it's in the show notes at playtherapycommunity.com. You can click and you can kind of see the details of the workshop. It just sounds amazing. So I know like you're doing that for the World Association for Sound Professionals, but you have your own, like where can people go to learn more from you? Like if they were to just, they couldn't go to the workshop, but they just wanted to be connected with you. What's your website or
the best website? I've got a couple of websites. One is a bit out of date. So the best current website is www.sandsoundcenter.co.uk. So
sandsoundcenter.co.uk. Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh, I've met somebody special today. Wow. Okay, so I'm at a loss for words. Thank you
And
so much.
just to add, people can find me on Facebook if they search for Masha Bennett. I don't think there are many Masha Bennetts around. Masha Bennett with double N and double T, and I'll be happy to connect with people with similar interests.
I think even if there was another Masha Bennett, there's not another Masha Bennett. You were like one of a kind. Well, thank you for being on the show today, and thanks for just being you. Wow.
Thank you, Jack. It's so lovely to meet you. I'm so excited about meeting you again at the workshop. I hope you enjoy it. I hope other people enjoy it and get something out of it.
Girl, I'm gonna tell everybody I know, all my good friends. I'm gonna be like, y'all need to take the day off, whatever it takes, because it's gonna be life changing. I mean, it truly does. That sound bath that I experienced at the summit was, I could feel, like stress. I could feel, I didn't even have words for it, like you said, but stuff was leaving my body, and I felt free afterwards. And that was just the tip of the iceberg, I think.
Yeah, that energy tends to flow more easily with the sound. It can flow through other means, during working with the sand or talking or just being with somebody or in the environment that's holding and safe. We can experience that sense of movement and that sense of release, but sound just somehow makes it easier sometimes. It helps to quieten down those thoughts, that very busy brain. It might, it's impossible to completely get rid of all those worrying thoughts or catastrophizing things going around and around, but the sound can soften it and take the edge of it and allow some space for being, and for being in the body and for being ourselves. So it's just an extra vehicle for releasing stuff we don't need and being who we really are.
Yes, please, to all of that. Wow. I can't even breathe after that. I feel like I am so excited. Thank you. And I'll see you at the workshop. And I can't wait for everyone to hear this conversation and to learn about you and all of your gifts to the world.
Thank you, Jackie. I'll see you at the workshop.
Bye, Masha.